Browns are going to get the ball back.
From News 5, this is the Browns Countdown Season Preview Show.
Yeah, the countdown is on to the start of the 2022 regular season, now just days away. Training camp is in the books. Now things get real there at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea. Welcome to the Browns Countdown Training Camp Special. I'm News 5 sports anchor Jon Doss. The man to my left needs no introduction, but I got to get a paycheck somehow. He's the top dog, Hanford Dixon, the Browns legend, and bookending us there, one half of the Next Level radio show on ESPN Cleveland, now 1/3 of the Browns radio broadcast team, also a three-time Super Bowl champion, Gerard Cherry. Here we are already.
And he's doing a good job.
He is doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
You know why he said he took that job? Because after 5 years of us together, he said he got tired of sitting next to you.
That is not true, dog. That's not true. Oh, so you guys been dogging the top dog.
Listen,
you know, that's okay. That's
okay. It's easy to sit next to somebody as handsome as you. I can confirm that.
Gerard, I know better. I know you didn't say that about
Much love.
I think that the thing that we can say for this 2022 preseason is, thankfully it's over, and now we can move on to the regular season.
You know what? I can't wait. I'm just sitting here, and I just couldn't believe that the season is getting ready to start. And guys, I'm just so happy. But there's some loose ends, some things that we're going to have to talk about, and we're going to talk about during this show, Gerard. But again, really happy for the season to start.
Right, and with the preseason starting, you did go away from it saying, okay, we need to start games a little bit faster. But at the same time, no one got hurt. And you know Jacoby Brissett is going to be your guy for at least for 11 games, you hope, until you get the return of Deshaun Watson. And obviously, one positive thing that I did really get from preseason is that, hey, we do have a good backup in Joshua Dobbs.
Well, I want to say this. I was a little bit surprised, though, you know, the way Stefanski handled this whole thing during preseason games. I mean, talking about Brissett. I mean, didn't really play him at all, except the last preseason game. But we'll see if that hurts. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
So tonight we're taking a look at the big picture in the Browns Countdown Season Preview Special. We will have our normal Browns Countdown Sunday morning from 11 to noon ahead of that Week 1 game against Carolina. Today we're looking big picture of the Browns 2022, what we've seen so far in the offseason and training camp, and what we anticipate going forward. And, well, this offseason was nothing, Hanford, if it wasn't interesting with Deshaun Watson. You
know, it was very, very interesting. You hit those words, hit it right on the head, and it's going to be, obviously, he's going to be missed. We're talking about a guy, I mean, suspended for the first 11 games, and we're just totally going to miss him, Gerard. But hopefully, by the time he's back, we'll be able to resurrect this thing if we need to and keep it going.
Right, and you paid him $230 million, and you fully guaranteed it for a reason. And why? Because he has a high skill set. He's considered one of the best in the business when it comes to playing the quarterback position. So obviously, his services will be missed. But at the same time, you brought Jacoby Brissett in here for a reason. And what's that reason? To hold down the fort, hold down the ship, and make sure that he can at least play 500 football, but I think it's going to take more than that, but at least play an average play to get the job done because, again, I think we're going to be a defensive-centric football team to start the season out.
We paid him how much?
$230. Guaranteed.
And it's funny, too. I think that's a reason right now, and we'll get into this, the kid down there with the Baltimore Ravens still haven't signed a contract.
Well, here we go. We got, what, 4 minutes into the show, into a season preview show, and Hanford brought up the Baltimore Ravens. So here we are. Neither of you guys were suspended over the course of your NFL careers, were you?
No.
You don't have to say for why if you were. No. But you inevitably missed games due to injury or for whatever reason. At some point, probably. How difficult is it focusing on the tasks at hand when you are not around your team in that normal setting?
Well, it's really tough. And, you know, speaking of Deshaun, I know he has a regiment, a calendar, things that he's going to do in order to keep himself in shape and be ready to go. And I know also I heard him say he's going to work on himself, Gerard, but I never was suspended, so, but still, he's going to be missed.
Well, I had a situation where I came to a team with 4 or 5 games into the season, and you really just have to go about earning your respect from your teammates and doing the things necessary to get the job done, and they accept you in. But obviously, his situation is different because everyone on the roster knows that ultimately this is his football team, and he's going to be here for the long term. But really, all he has to do is make sure he stays abreast of what's going on and connected to the team via social media and obviously watching the games. You cannot completely check out.
And I want to say this. I mean, this is the NFL. It's hard enough beating a team in the NFL with your complete roster. And when you don't have one of your with top players like a Deshaun, it's going to be even harder trying to win football games.
So Watson suspended 11 games, which means he has to be away from that cross-country mortgage campus in Berea at least until week 4. Though if you listen to Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach says he's confident that Watson will do what is necessary over the course of the next 5 weeks.
I know he's going to be away here for a couple days at least to start, but I think he has a really good plan. Obviously, as you know, we can't direct it. We can't follow up with him. It's really no contact with him until October 10th, but I'm confident that he has a good plan to do some good work while he's away from the building.
All right, so Watson is suspended the first 11 games of the season. Gerard, that means that for the next 11 games, it is Jacoby Brissett's team.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I'm excited about Jacoby Brissett being the guy. And the reason why I can say that with confidence is that he's been in this position before. Yeah. He's not foreign to the idea of getting his mind ready for a 16-game season. So with that being said, what's 11 games going to be to him? And obviously, too, if you go back to what we experienced last year, guys, what was the case? The case was that Baker Mayfield just played average quarterback, not superstar, not all-pro, but average quarterback. We find ourselves in a playoff run with the way Kevin Stefanski calls plays because he puts the quarterback in a position to succeed. So all Jacoby needs to do is game manage. I know guys don't like that term as a quarterback, but please game manage because sometimes when you game manage, you win games.
That's all we asked for last year.
Well, I wish I felt as good as you feel about this whole thing, Gerard, with Jacoby Brissett. And I agree with you. I mean, he's a guy that can go out and game manage a football game, not make many mistakes, and do what he needs to do in order to get this football team to win. But I just wish he'd have played a little bit more time to show me a little something more in the preseason games. But that's all right. We're behind him, and we do have Joshua Dobbs, who's behind him.
And I feel what you're saying because I'm cut from the same cloth. Preseason games you use as your preparation to play in the regular season. And now we're in an age where we don't do that anymore. It's antiquated in a sense in order to play in the preseason. You use the practices. So I'm with you, too, because you say to yourself as a veteran player, well, how do you get yourself in football shape? How do you get yourself ready if you're not playing in preseason games? But that day and age is now passing us by where they simply don't use the preseason games as a barometer where you stand getting ready for the week 1.
And that's crazy because I know me, myself, when I played, obviously we had 4 preseason games, and today it's only 3. But I wanted to take that last preseason game. I wanted to pretty much play the entire game because I know the following week we had a regular season game, and I wanted to get myself ready, get myself in what they call game shape, take a couple of hits, and feel what it's going to be like.
And when halftime approached, know that you go out there and play.
Well, to Gerard's point, right, Jacoby Brissett's resume has prepared him for this moment, for the first 3 months of this season. And so, too, has Kevin Stefanski's offense.
Obviously been building up this, this menu of plays to see what I like. And I mean, because obviously if I can't run it and other players, not just me, other players can't run the plays, then we won't run them. So I think Kevin is doing a good job of listening to those opinions. Obviously, it's some plays where you got to say, hey, you got to learn it. But as the week progresses, that's how more comfortable you get with plays. So yeah.
I got to ask you a question, though, Gerard. I get what you're saying with the game management thing, and you're right. There were so many times last year where we said, well, if Baker Mayfield's not healthy, put in a healthy Case Keenum. He gives him the best chance to win a game because you didn't think he was going to lose you the game. But it is the NFL. Right. And there are moments, there are games, you need a quarterback to win you a game.
True.
Can Jacoby Brissett be that guy for the Browns?
I think he can because, again, no one does it alone. We put it up quarterbacks on a pedestal, and rightfully so. Yeah. We've seen Aaron Rodgers do it. We've seen Tom Brady do it. You've seen Matthew Stafford come up with these incredible plays. Heck, on some occasions, you even saw Baker Mayfield do it. He just didn't do it consistently enough. I think Jacoby Brissett can get the job done and make these plays. Now, my man Top Dog,
I got a little side eye.
I mean,
seems like you disagree with me.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm taking notes of what you said. I mean, because if you look at the quarterbacks you just named, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, I mean,
pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good quarterbacks.
But my point is, again, he will not be doing it by himself. Yeah. We're expecting 9 and probably sometimes 15 guys in a box.
Oh, I'm with you.
So what's that going to do for him?
Right.
That's going to put him in a position where he's getting one-on-one matchups, and you know better than I know. The league is now set up not to when we play, to let you win in intermediate routes.
They want to score.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Brady had help, too, with all those Super Bowls.
Exactly.
Right there on the
hey, they didn't win for 10 years after I left, dog.
Hanford, arguably the most impressive player in the Browns preseason was Joshua Dobbs. When Dobbs was in there, really performed well for this team.
That's why I said I feel a little better. I feel a little better just by watching him, seeing him get in there, watching him make plays, pretty much like what you talked about, managing the football game. And the guy made some decent throws, too. I mean, he found some guys made plays for him. So I think we're in good hands. If for some reason Brissett doesn't get it done, Dobbs can come in and get it done.
Well, heck, Dobbs is actually going to get an opportunity to get it done because he performed so well. They're going to actually put packages out there for him, and I get it. He was dynamic during the course of the preseason games. Now, I'm pretty sure had Jacoby had the amount of reps as Dobbs had and played the way Dobbs played, you'd be saying something somewhat different in regards to your confidence level with Jacoby.
And you know, and you got to give Stefanski a lot a lot of credit. I mean, maybe he didn't play him because he don't want to get him hurt, so.
He went right by that one, right?
No, I heard it. No, I didn't.
Let's talk real quick.
No, I didn't. I just didn't want to go there.
Let's go real quick on this wide receiving core. We know they bring in Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. You have some answers to the questions you have on him from last year, but he dealt with injuries last year too. Wide receiving core as a whole, does it instill a lot of confidence for you?
Absolutely, and one guy I think who's going to play a lot and who's going to be really good is Michael Woods. I'm surprised rookie, because you look at that rookie, Gerard, and you know a lot better than we do. He had a hamstring pull.
That he did.
And he still was able to make this football team. You got Peoples-Jones. I mean, he's the guy that led this team pretty much in reception, but Amari Cooper is going to have to be the guy. But we have to have some guys that come out there and take some of that pressure off him. Schwartz needs to catch some balls, too.
That he do, but you never cease to amaze me. Because when I feel I know exactly where you're going,
know where I'm going.
You don't go there. Because I did not foresee you.
Well, I want to say, if I was playing, I would take either one of these guys and just shut them down, you know.
And I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, the reason that he probably has a lot of confidence in Brissett, obviously we've talked defense and we're going to talk more about the defense. Coming up after the break, the reason we should all have confidence in this Browns offense, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Ever heard of him? Next on the Browns Countdown, season preview special. Well, things are a lot more quiet at the cross-country mortgage campus in Berea these days as opposed to just a few weeks ago when the Browns were still in the midst of training camp 2022. Now it's week 1 of this 2022 regular season. Welcome back into the Browns Countdown season preview special. Jon Doss, Hanford Dixon, Gerard Cherry, and well, we talked about it. Maybe the most confidence you have in any room in this Browns team is the running back room, and it's led by Nick Chubb.
Boy, you're talking about a group that's really going to play important on how well Jacoby does is his running back room. It all starts with our running back Chubb. I mean, you talking about a guy that's just a man's man, just a monster as far as running the ball. And also, I think what's going to happen, Gerard, between him and Hunt, they're going to alternate a little bit a lot. But, Gerard, in training camp, did you see the kid, Jerome Ford?
Yes, I did. Very impressive what I saw.
Oh, man. Very, very impressive running back.
Is this the year, though, Gerard? Because it seems like every year, you look at Chubb's numbers, his average carries per season are drastically lower than the other top 10 running backs in the NFL. And it's a luxury. It's a luxury to not have to trot him out for 25 carries a game. True. Is this the year that maybe we see more of those, or is Kevin Stefanski going to continue to do that?
I think this is a year you see more of Nick Chubb being in the upper echelon of average from how many times he gets the football. But also, too, with him having that C on his chest, I'm pretty sure that's going to add extra emphasis for him to say, you know what, let me help direct this team as a team captain. But, yes, I think he will get more opportunities because, simply put, we're counting on the running game until Deshaun Watson gets back to hold down the fort, and that means a lot of Nick Chubb left, Nick Chubb right, Nick Chubb up the middle, and obviously you have Kareem and a host of other guys that can help get the job done as well. But I expect to see a lot of Nick Chubb this upcoming season.
Gerard, I was shocked when obviously they kept 5 running backs, but of course they have Felton, who they list also as a receiver pretty much part of the time. But I think Nick Chubb is one of those guys. We talked about the guys didn't have a chance to play in the preseason. I think he's one of those guys that wanted to play a little bit because I think he mentioned something and said that in the first game, you know, his body will be beat up. He'll get beat up a little bit, but it'll take him some time to come back because you want those hits in preseason.
Well, there's Batman and Robin, right? And maybe Kareem Hunt doesn't want to be Robin, but Kareem Hunt is
call him Superman.
Is 1B, right? Batman and Superman. Kareem Hunt is 1B.
He wants some money. You better get that check. tech ready for
I was going to say, I wasn't going to say that, but I was going to say there is more motivation maybe, Hanford, this year for Kareem Hunt.
Okay. A lot more motivation because he want to get paid. You know, I thought was really nice, though. Nick Chubb came out and he said he was really behind Kareem Hunt and he wanted him to get his money. So I think that tells you about the relationship that those two guys have.
And what I love about the relationship, guys, is the fact that both these guys are alpha backs, top-tier backs in the National Football League, but they don't hate on each other. And what I mean by that is they're not jealous. They're not envious. No. They support each other. Nick Chubb does not get upset when Kareem Hunt comes on the 1-yard line and runs in for a score. And vice versa, Kareem Hunt feels the exact same way about Nick Chubb. And when you have that dynamic, this allows you to have two guys who are stellar top-tier backs coexist in the same backfield. And you witnessed this with Mack back in the day.
Biner.
And
yeah.
Biner.
Yeah, Mack and Biner was pretty much the same thing. If I'm not mistaken, though, didn't he have, when he wasn't here, and KC, didn't he have the rushing title?
Well, Kareem did.
Kareem Hunt, I mean,
yes,
yeah,
as a rookie.
Yeah,
we certainly know that he's capable of it, but again, they're not getting the bell cow type of carries because they don't have to.
Right.
It's a luxury for this team, and if you have any doubts as to Kevin Stefanski's as the direction he wants to take this offense, look at what they kept on the 53-man roster. Not only those two, Dearness Johnson, the rookie Jerome Ford, and Demetric Felton. I know you mentioned he's listed in the wide receiving room, but that's a guy that can line up in the backfield.
But I want to say this, too, and because we're going to hit more on this on Sunday, but we all know where it starts. It starts on that offensive line, and, Gerard, we have the best offensive line, I think, in the league.
Yeah, we certainly have that as a strength, and if you have the offensive line as a strength, correct me if I'm wrong, Top Dog, it's easier to run block than it is to pass block. Now, obviously, the Carolina Panthers
in
particular.
What would he know about that?
That's a good point. But he did have a face mask that had a bar down the middle.
Hey, John, you and I could run behind this offensive line. Come on.
He did have the face mask bar. You're right. So he probably.
I was waiting to see how long it was going to take him before he started talking about my face mask.
Well, part of that offensive line, of course, is the tight ends. We know Kevin Stefanski wants to run the football. We know he wants to employ his tight ends. Only kept 2 of them on that first 53. Then they, of course, brought in Jesse James. But David Njoku got paid this offseason, Gerard. This team is going to expect more bang for their buck now.
Certainly, and I believe they're going to get it because David Njoku is a very talented individual, and I believe the reason why his numbers have not been great, not due to talent, not due to desire, but more so due to actual attempts coming his way. Obviously, Baker Mayfield struggled last year, and everyone suffered from a receiving position, be it tight end or the receivers. But I believe this year he will be a focal point. It'll be between he and Amari Cooper, in my mind, in regards to who will be the top receivers on this squad because they're going to get all the attempts and attention here.
I agree with you 100%. And if there's a guy on this football team that deserves his money, it's David Njoku. And I'm still trying to figure out why we gave, who was it,
Austin
Cooper?
Hooper.
I mean, I'm
throwing
still,
everybody under the bus
I can't help it. I'm still trying to figure out how and why we gave Cooper all that money when we got David Njoku on this team. But, guys, he's going to have to earn that money. And I think he will, but you're right. I think between him and Amari Cooper, I think those would be the 2 guys mainly that the quarterback would
And I'll throw Harrison Bryant in as well because the way I see it, it'll be Cooper, Njoku, and Bryant as our top 3 receivers. And then the rest of the guys are going to have to find their way and build up trust and confidence in order to get the job done.
Well, I got to tell you this. Did you see Jesse James?
Yeah, I did.
Big dude. I mean,
big dude.
How would you like to line up against him?
Hey, I'd line up against him.
you got to get him a bar with a face mask. Right? So we expect David Njoku to have an expanded role.
Yes.
So too does David.
I mean, just by the way practice is going, I'm out there more often than, the past, obviously. So, yeah, I'm excited. I believe we put in the correct work, every day in camp. We were very smart, and we worked hard. So I believe we are prepared, yes.
Conference with your shirt off?
No, but I should have.
Did you look like that?
I think so.
Oh. Wow. Hanford never took the fur coat off. No. All right. Coming up after the break, we get into something that the 2 of you guys might know a little bit about. We talk about what could be the best secondary in football. Next on the Browns Countdown Season Preview Special. The countdown continues, just days away from the kickoff of this 2022 regular season, and then just about a week and a half away from kickoff right there along the shores of the greatest of the Great Lakes. Jon Doss, Hanford Dixon, Gerard Cherry, and we're going to get Hanford in trouble here because we're going to talk modern-day Browns secondary.
Modern day.
Which actually, Hanford, you're pretty confident in this group that they've got this year.
You know what? I think it's pretty much pretty close to the strongest unit, one of the strongest units we have on this football team. And it all starts with our two cornerbacks, talking about Denzel Ward and Greg Newsom. I mean, Denzel Ward, guys, he's really starting to play extremely, extremely well. I mean, you see him right here. Look at him. He's turning into a lockdown corner. Here he is picking off this pass, taking it back almost 100 yards for a touchdown. And then also on the other side, you have a guy, Greg Newsom. Guys, let me tell you, the sky is the limit for this guy. I have sit down. I have talked to this guy. Not only did I talk to him, but I had an opportunity to talk to his parents, to talk to his father, and this kid says all the right things, but not only that, he does it on the football field. He works hard each and every day, and I think he's going to be pretty darn good, too.
The question has never been whether those guys are good enough. It's been staying healthy. Luckily, they go out and draft a guy, M.J. Emerson, big body. We expect health not going to be an issue, knock on wood, for the rookie. All right, coming up after the break, we go with another guy that's got a decent body size, Myles Garrett, next on the Browns Countdown. You hear it? That sound. It's Myles Garrett licking his chops, heading into Carolina. As you take a look at First Energy Stadium, the Browns, of course, home opener week 2 against the Jets in just about a week and a half. Jon Doss, Hanford Dixon, Gerard Cherry, Myles Garrett, man, we saw something we'd never seen in this franchise last year. Myles Garrett, the single-season sack king. Can he take it to another level, Gerard, in 2022?
Certainly. You build on that. And when you watch his career, what have you seen? Year after year, he's getting better and better. And also what I love about Myles is the fact that he's embracing this idea of leadership and bringing other guys along. Last season, he challenged on several occasions the team to play better and step up. And guess what he did in the process? He played even better, lifting his game up, which is hard to do already. So, yes, I think he can easily get to a 17.5 sack mark and just flat out dominate. So that's where I see him at, and with the potential to get even higher.
You know he wants a couple in week 1.
You want to get a piece of Baker Mayfield. But, Gerard, you got me going with that 17.5 because obviously he set the record with 16 last year. But I have to agree with you because this guy, man, I tell you, the way I keep talking about it when we're up here, the way he just dips that body and get around the offensive lineman and get to the quarterback is just unbelievable to me. I just wish I had someone like that rushing when I was playing.
Man, he always
well, I just no, I'm not putting anybody in the bus, but you know, our guys,
it makes life easier in the secondary. It makes life easier in the secondary, and I don't think it's a coincidence. And I wrote down 17.5 as Gerard's official prediction for the season. I don't think it's a coincidence that Myles had his best season the year Jadeveon Clowney was opposite him and healthy and really, really productive, and he gets it again this year.
Exactly. That makes all the sense in the world. And the fact that Jadeveon came back is also a sign that, hey, he enjoyed his time here in Cleveland and understands that, hey, Myles and I make a great dynamic duo, and if he's feeding, I'm feasting as well. And you want that and you need that, because if you don't have that, what's going to happen? All the attention is going to go to Myles Garrett. But when you have Jadeveon out there with him, you know that if you are concentrating solely on Myles, he's going to go out there and make some plays as well. So, yes, you need 2 bookends in this day and age in the National Football League to get the job done.
Gerard, you're exactly right, and Clowney is no dummy. He understands that with Myles out there, they can't try to double-team him, because if he was somewhere else with someone not like a Myles Garrett rushing the quarterback besides himself, then he would draw maybe some of those double teams. But there's no doubt about it. He's definitely playing much better with Myles Garrett on the other side.
And we know Myles Garrett is settled for quite a while, right? He got the big offseason extension last year. Jadeveon Clowney's at the point in his career, every single year, he's kind of trying to prove himself and reprove himself, and he's got another opportunity to do it this year. Outside of those 2 guys, a lot of question marks in the edge rushers.
Well, I'm sitting there thinking about Clowney because I was thinking, before I said anything else, I was thinking about him because he's like those quarterbacks. You know how those quarterbacks, every year, they want to be franchised when you can't get the big contract? Right. And that's what it's like with Clowney. He can't get the big contract. It's sort of like him being franchise. But you know what? You look at Clowney, you look at Myles Garrett, they're going to make everybody else on that defensive line much, much better, I think.
Yeah, but when you speak to the outside, though, too, Hanford, You're going to have Winovich step up and his opportunities present itself, along with Thomas, the rookie, who's getting the opportunity, who made this 53-man roster as well.
As we know, you need depth. You need depth at every position.
Yeah.
You can be really comfortable in Clowney and Myles Garrett, but even those guys need miss time over the course of their careers. Internally on the defensive line, a lot of question marks. Jordan Elliott, is this a year that they can really depend on him potentially to be a stronghold there in the middle of the defensive line?
It's going to have to be the case because you're going to be, tested, right? You're going to be tested. Now, obviously, you brought some guys in. You got Winfrey, who's a rookie, but again, you also have Togiai from last year as well as draft class, and he'll get the opportunities. But yes, you need Elliott to step up and be the man, because if I'm an offense, what am I going to do? I am going to test and try the middle of the defensive line time in and time out, because I know outside I don't want to mess with that, but inside I'll give it a try.
And you got guys like Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, all those guys on that defensive line, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think those guys are going to hold their own, and I think that's a big reason why when you look at it, we keep 9 or 10 guys as far as defensive linemen on this football team.
All right, we feel a little bit differently about this linebacking core than we did entering last year. Last year there were way more question marks. This year, another opportunity to see Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I think could really be one of the really fantastic defensive players in the NFL. Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki are rounding that starting linebacking core. Better than we expected last year, maybe, and now we're expecting more things this year.
Yeah, and I think that's the right expectation, because for some of these guys, it's years 3 and 4. So at this point, you have experience. Everything's not flying by you at the speed of light. It's slowing down for you. So Takitaki, I expect you to be a run forcer. Walker's proven already. He's getting the job done. But JOK, I think he has the opportunity to step up and be that premier, get things done in the backfield type of a linebacker that we've been missing for so long around here.
Well, he's going to have to be that guy, especially in this first game coming up, because you got McCaffrey, and McCaffrey can do pretty much it all. He can run the football, he can catch the football coming out the backfield, and we have to have a guy like JOK. But guys, what's really, I want to see how this whole thing is going to work out. You talked about Walker. I mean, Walker's got Phillips right on his heels. Between those two guys, I can't wait to see how much they're going to play, how much we're going to. Obviously, Walker's going to start, but Phillips also is going to play a lot during the game.
And the fact that they made Walker a captain tells you what his teammates who voted on this think about him, and that's a huge honor when your teammates do it as opposed to a coach assigning someone who they happen to like.
Yeah, and you talk about the veteran Anthony Walker. He is itching for Sunday.
We don't need to get riled up. You know, this is the first game of the season of the 2022 season. That's enough fire for us, and anytime we get a chance to go out there and play this game, we're fired up and we're ready to play.
You remember the last time Phil Dawson took the field for this football team? A decade ago, 10 years ago. Browns fans hoping this guy is the answer. Next on the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Few venues in the NFL test its players quite like First Energy along the shores of Lake Erie. Nobody knows that better than the kickers who have kicked inside of that stadium. Jon Doss, Hanford Dixon, Gerard Cherry. Cade York is already finding that out. This is a guy who was spectacular in training camp. Missed a couple of kicks in the preseason, but also made a couple of 50-plus yarders. Gerard, this is the kicker that this franchise has been waiting for since Phil Dawson left a decade.
Exactly, John. He has a strength in his leg. He has the ability to be accurate. And, heck, we've seen him in preseason games and before the game even start, hit 70-yarders. Yeah. So right there tells you that he has a leg strength. But the other part that I do realize, Hanford, is the following. We're going to be in a lot of tightly contested football games, and we need a kicker who is consistent and can get the job done and use that strength to an advantage.
And Gerard, you're right, and boy, is he that guy. I mean, you talking about a guy kicked 157 yards, and it still looked like it had another 10 yards or so with it. I see why we went ahead. I think we were the only team that drafted a kicker in this past draft, and now I see why we did that, because this kid, Cade York, he's something else. But I mean, you don't like his mustache. You think he should? You think he should get rid of that mustache?
I'm not a huge mustache fan. I'm not a huge fan. But if it's going to allow him to kick 70-yarders, I'll take it.
If that's part of his superstition, keep it.
I don't want to give Hanford the opportunity to go back to the Baltimore Ravens. But let's be honest. Lamar Jackson is the MVP of that football team. Who's the second most important player on that team?
Oh, Tucker.
Maybe Justin Tucker. Right.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Tucker got that big offseason extension this year.
He did.
Because they have won games because of his leg. That is something that this franchise, Hanford, has missed for a long time.
No question about it. And I'll tell you what, Tucker, we talk about him and we kid about him, but he's automatic. And that guy pretty much from 50, 55 yards, anywhere around there, he's hitting them. And now we can match that with this kid, Gerard K. York.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to give K. York a season or two before I put him on the level of Tucker.
Now we're building the statue.
But at the same time, you're going to – here's what I do know.
We're building it.
You don't want to have the worst quarterback. You want to have one of the best quarterbacks in your division.
Yeah.
And we've also found, too, in particular with the AFC North, you better have one of the better kickers, too, because the momentum can be killed if you miss an extra point, if you're not making these field goals. Because, again, when the weather turns bad, you need someone who can get those 3 points for you.
And we say you need the quarterback who sometimes is going to be able to go down and win a game. You need the kicker who can win the game.
Exactly.
And that's something that this franchise has missed. I know a guy that Hanford is very excited about. Corey Bohrquest, the kicker.
Corey who?
Yeah, I wanted you to say his name. That's the only thing I want out of you.
Corey who? I say Corey B.
Corey B?
Corey B, you know.
Punters, you know, it's a position that this franchise has struggled with for a little while, too. I mean, it's one we don't talk a lot about.
I think everybody struggles. You know, that's a position where those guys, they go and they get on the other side of the bench and they do their thing. But, Gerard, this guy's supposed to be pretty good.
Well, I watched him in the course of preseason, and I was extremely impressed with what he was doing as far as flipping the field, and that's going to be the key part here. We're going to go to an old-school brand of football. What are you going to see? You're going to see us do running with a cloud of dust, occasionally pass, but also when we're in these moments where we need to flip the field, Corey will have to step up and get the job done and boot it 50, 60 yards to flip the field and give our defense ample field to work with to pin a team down and then get back on offense with a shorter field. That's the game plan.
You know what I like about him, too? He gets some hike on that football. And, you know, me personally, hike, I never personally would return punts or anything like that. But I know if I had, if I had to return, you don't know. It's Gerard to tell you, if you're returning punts and that ball is up in the air and you got those guys breathing down on you, I don't care how good you are, it's on your mind.
Right.
So you want to give him his name a shot?
Corey B.
Corey B. Right. Well, speaking of returning kicks, right? It is one of the real tragic stories that came out of camp this year. Kick returner, kick return specialist. It's also been a position, really, since Josh Cribbs was on this team, that the Browns have not had solidified. This year they thought they had. Jakeem Grant. He was a Pro Bowler at that position last year. Grant goes down, season-ending injury in training camp. Now that means, Hanford, it's an opportunity for Demetric Felton.
Yeah, you know, we have him listed as a running back, but I tell you what, he's going to come in and I think he's going to do a pretty good job doing that because he's a kid that's pretty hungry. And you're talking about Joshua Cribbs, but the guy I think about when you talk about returning punts and returning kickoffs was Gerald McNeil Ice Cube. I don't think anyone was better than him, and that's who this kid Felton reminds me of because they seem like they're pretty much Gerard the same size.
Well, I love what Felton brings, and I think he's an athlete who can play out running back. He can also play the receiver position. He can also return kicks. But the thing, too, though, going back to Grant, yes, that was one of the things we wanted to address because when you look at what were issues going to the offseason that the team said we need to address, it was quarterback and it was a special teams player, be it a kicker as well as a return specialist, and we lost that. So here's a great opportunity for Demetric Felton to step up and show out because Lord knows the resources are there to have a success in the process if he goes out there and gets a job done.
I'm laughing because I was waiting on that show up and show out. That's my man. We're back. We're ready to go.
Can't you just envision Hanford fair catching?
Oh, no.
I can't because see two balls in that bar.
Well, I will say, Demetric Felton has to know that this is a major opportunity.
Yes.
Because let's be honest, if not for the Jakeem Grant injury and Felton being in that kick return, punt return role, might not be on the team.
It's a possibility.
It'd be an option, you know. They got 4 other running backs in that room, and of course he's in the wide receiving room, at least on the depth chart. But he's got to know this is a major opportunity for him. All right, coming up after the break, we'll talk about what should be one of the most interesting divisions in football for many reasons. Hanford's going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Coming up next on the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Browns kick off the 2022 regular season in just 3 days. A week after that, they'll file in right there, First Energy Stadium for Week 2 against the Jets. Back in the Browns Countdown season preview special, take a look at the AFC North standings from a year ago. Hard to believe 10-7 won this division. Not just that, that team that was 10-7 played in the Super Bowl. Maybe the most shocking thing here, Baltimore Ravens, 4th in that division a year ago, though we know they battled injuries, as did every team in the NFL, Hanford. It was not just a Baltimore Ravens problem. Jon Doss, Hanford Dixon, Gerard Cherry. Clear something up for me, because we were talking about this in the break. Some are saying Denzel Ward and Greg Newsom, maybe the best cornerback duo ever to play for this franchise.
You have lost your mind. I mean, wait a minute. I want to know who's saying that. You got Newsom has only played. He hasn't played 2 years now.
Hey, you just said you love his game, though.
I love his game.
Let's see, Hanford, if he's still got the back pedal.
No,
because he's backpedaling right now.
On a serious note, I think those guys have a chance to be that, because I'm telling you, they are just awesome. And I mean, Ward is pretty much there playing on a high level.
Right.
Only thing, he's just got to stay healthy. You know, stay healthy. And Newsom, I just love the way he attacks things. I love the way he attacked the corners and the receivers. And he's just not afraid of anything.
And Greg Newsom burst onto the scene last year in which game, in which matchup? It was against the Cincinnati Bengals and Jamar Chase, who torched the NFL. There was one cornerback that could keep him under wraps, and it was Greg Newsom, and he did it twice. Speaking of Cincinnati, Bengals Super Bowl team a year ago. This, to me, is one of the really interesting teams in 2022. I don't see the Cincinnati team getting back to that level.
Well, I would somewhat disagree.
I think there are teams that got better, and I think Cincinnati was hot at the right time. Cincinnati's defense was not great all year until they got to the postseason, and then they turned it up. I don't see them recreating that.
I'm going to have to move over here closer with you, because you and I on the same page.
Who's the analyst in this show?
Well, here's the deal. The reason why I disagree with you, their biggest issue and concern was the offensive line. They lost the Super Bowl because they had no pass protection when it mattered most. What did they go out and do? They went out and signed everybody under the sun who could play offensive line at a high level. So with that in mind, they have to be thinking, okay, we addressed our major concern and issue, and the defense is serviceable. So I would like to think that with the offensive line and that these guys are still hungry. Now, this is the hard part about going to the Super Bowl. You go there, you don't win. A lot of times you have this layover, this malaise in which you don't want to get back there.
You're right.
And they might fall into that category. But if they don't, you have to like the fact that they improved their offensive line on already one of the most high-powered offenses in the National Football League.
But Burrow and Chase, Hanford, they had such an incredible year in their first year together. Now, they played at LSU together, too, so they already had that relationship. Can they recreate that again?
There's no question they can, but they also have Higgins, they have Boyd. And then also, when you look at it, the running game, Joe Mixon.
For real?
You know, they can run the football, and they're really going to be able to run the football when you talk about them improving that offensive line. But I tell you what, the Bengals are just stacked, on offense. And when I think of Joe Burrow, who he reminds me of, well, obviously he's a little bit faster and more mobile than who I'm talking about. But I think of Kozar, because you're talking about two guys that could play, but both of those guys are right here from Ohio born and Ohio bred. But I agree with you as far as getting back to the Super Bowl. I think they have a chance, because when you look at their roster on offense and you look at their roster on defense, they have the horses to do it.
John, their roster is so stacked on the offensive side of the ball that you have people literally in their fantasy leagues just taking that offense as their whole league.
All right, so I'm going to stick to not doing analysis. I couldn't sway either of you guys away from the Cincinnati Bengals. What about the Pittsburgh Steelers? For the first time in nearly 2 decades, question marks at quarterback. It's going to be Mitchell Trubisky, the Menor kid that's going to start the season. They drafted, of course, Pickett in the draft this year. It's a question mark in Pittsburgh.
Well, it's a question mark, but I think they almost had to go with Mitch Trubisky, because obviously he's a guy that's got a few games under his belt. He's pretty much a veteran at this stage, but he's also a guy that still has a lot to prove. And he's going to get the opportunity to lead this football team. But guys, let's make no bones about it. We all know that everybody wants to see that young kid who played at Pitt. They want to see him come in there, and they want to see him lead this football team. But I think they're going to be strong. I think they're going to be okay. But when you also look at the other side of the ball, they got a pretty good defense. And we all know it starts with that kid Watt, who can get to the quarterback. But there's a strong defensive line, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so they'll always be, they're going to be no easy out with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to play with pride because they got one of the best coaches also in the National Football League. But I do think this is a situation for them. And Hanford, you played against these guys. I think they're going to be in a spot where there's the Mark McDonald and Bubby Brister era in that they're going through transition until they get back to that place again.
Bubby Brister got in the show tonight. Wow. All right, Baltimore Ravens. They finished last in the division last season. I said it again. I said it once. I'll say it again. Lamar Jackson still doesn't have a new contract. He's given him a deadline. What do you think from the Baltimore Ravens this year? What does Ozzie think about the Baltimore Ravens?
The Baltimore Ravens are going to be just fine. I mean, you're talking about a football team that's returning. They are really, really healthy. And you talk about Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he gave him until Friday to get this thing done, and he's cutting off negotiations after that. But also, I think when you look at their defense, that's where it all starts, because Baltimore is starting with a new defensive coordinator. They got rid of Meek Martindale. They got a kid over there now. I think his name is Mike McDonald. But guys, two things that I think are really, really good. They got those two corners coming back, talking about Peters and also Humphrey. Those two guys are healthy, and they're going to be back in there.
They hold better than anyone in the National Football League. Shout out to my boy Chris Hewitt, who was the defensive back coach, because he's taught them well. But in all seriousness, I don't understand why they fired Wink, because your whole defense was hurt for the entirety of the season, it's felt like. But yes, this is going to be a healthy football team. They lost everybody, so you cannot count them out. But the one thing I am counting on, because I don't wish them success, is what's going on with Lamar Jackson. That has to be something of an issue.
And let me say this. I think that was a mistake, too, to get rid of Wink, because I think, didn't this kid come from, the new defensive coordinator come from his brother's team, Michigan? I think Mike McDonald came from Michigan, so.
I think we're going to see a Lamar Jackson.
The two hardball guys.
More like the MVP Lamar Jackson and less like the one we saw last year. All right, coming up in the break, we're going to talk very shortly about the Carolina Panthers. This Week 1 matchup next on the Browns Countdown Season Preview. There it is, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, the site of that Week 1 matchup between the Panthers and Cleveland Browns. Per usual, you can find us right here, the same spot, 11 a.m. on Sunday, Brownstown Live at 11:35. By the way, 11 a.m. this week, 11 to noon. Every other week, 10:30. Hanford, the Browns have to do this to be successful in 2022.
I think their defense have to really come up with a lot of turnovers and play hard. Keep those guys out of the end zone.
Have a lot of turnovers here. Gerard?
Exactly. For the offense, same thing. Do not create and give away the football. If you do that and play clean, you'll have some success.
Gerard will be in Charlotte alongside Nathan Zagura. Hanford and I will be right here. We will see you Sunday morning on the Browns Countdown. Thanks for watching.